My friend has sent me some questions about Russia and what I think about Russia, and I hope I can answer them, that you get an idea what I think about it, and maybe you're gonna get to know something new. Well, it's not a very easy question, especially where the people are happier. I can tell that Germany is a bit more developed than Russia. You notice, for example, when you go to a doctor's or to a hospital. In Germany, everything is new there, new equipment, clean everything. In Russia, when you go to the doctors, sometimes you see the hospital is not as new, the equipment is not very new, not as new as in Germany. That's when you notice it's a little bit less developed in Germany. Generally, I don't think that Russia is everywhere a little bit behind, but sometimes you do notice, and I think it's coming through the lack of money or financing Russia has in some cases. The US. Well, the US is of course also very developed. I have of course not been everywhere in the US, the same as in Russia. That's also why it's so hard to say who is further developed or where it's better developed. But in the US, everything was very developed. For example, let's stick with the example of the doctors. I've been there to the doctors a couple times, and it was also new, modern, everything. Just some things I noticed towards Germany. Some things are a little bit old-fashioned in the US, and that surprised me a little bit. At least it was this way in the area I've been in the US. I have not been in a big city, but in the area I have been in, they had like a little bit more old-fashioned things. Happiness. Well, I don't exactly know where people are happier. I think in Russia people are pretty happy. It's not that they are super happy because they get like super wealthy or something. They just like enjoy life in a little different way. And that's what kind of makes them. So I don't think that like Russians are less happy than people in Germany or US. It depends a bit on the person, but generally I think Russians are relatively happy, or pretty happy actually. Germany, I don't know. I wouldn't say that they're super happy, I wouldn't say that they're not happy. Same thing for the US. So as a conclusion, Germany and the US are in some cases a little bit more developed than Russia, especially in cases where you go as a person, like doctors or some other institutions where you see things are a little bit behind, but I don't think that Russia is really behind in universities. Universities, I've seen some, and a couple I've seen, they were like very modern, and I don't think that they're like behind in development behind Germany, US. And happiness, I think Russia is happy in a different way, for example, than Germany, and in a different way than the US. It's not very easy to answer. I have friends in Moscow, and I wouldn't say that they act differently towards me than my friends in St. Petersburg. You do notice like the people are maybe a little bit different when you talk to them on the street, and my impression was that people in St. Petersburg are a little bit friendlier sometimes. Like, I'm not talking about when you have a friend, I'm talking about like a cashier or somebody who is at the metro station working and checking if anybody is bringing like any big luggage that they maybe need to check for dangerous items. But generally there's not a big difference, I think. Well, I'm not a big church expert, but there are some things I noticed. For example, Russian churches, when you walk towards them, they're a lot more colorful, a lot fancier than German churches, as well on the outside and inside. Inside there's a lot of more gold. On the outside you have an entirely different design. If you have seen a picture, you're definitely gonna know what I'm talking about. The service itself is different. People in the Orthodox Church don't sit down for a service, people have to cover more or less, no, women only have to cover more or less their hair, and they put candles for somebody or for something in the church, which is not usual for example, a Protestant church in Germany. And also a big difference is that the Russian church sticks with the old calendar, so they're basically 13 days behind everything. So when we have Christmas Eve on the 24th of December in Germany, they got Christmas Eve and actually Christmas in January, which is very unusual for me. But that's basically everything I noticed on differences between the German church and the Russian Orthodox Church so far. Maybe I'll see something in the future. Well, I don't think that Russia is considering this question. First of all, it has to do with Russian trade deals and the Russian markets they want to protect, and also like certain political things. So I don't think that this question is even coming up for Russia to join the EU and vice versa. Well, I don't know exactly how much it influenced the global inheritance, but I think it influenced it to a certain point. Especially, I have met people who actually are studying Russian just to read Dostoevsky or Pushkin in the original language, not translated. So I think it did its job in adding cultural, literature, variety to the global literature, and giving very interesting and nice pieces of literature that you only got in Russia. I don't think that Russia is still the Soviet Union. I think that people changed too much for that to be still Soviet Union. Of course you see some Soviet symbols and Soviet statues from the times, but they just leave them as a historical thing. And how liberal Russia is, I don't think that Russia is as liberal as, for example, in some cases Germany, but I wouldn't also say that Russia is super conservative. It really depends a little bit on what people do you talk to. You can find very liberal people, you can find conservative people, you can find people who are in the middle. Generally it's less liberal than, for example, Germany, but I wouldn't say it's super conservative. Russian media, you see differences in the way they design talk shows, TV series and everything. But when you watch, for example, in Russian news, the way they tell them, the way they're designed is not really different from German news. How free Russian media is, I don't think that Russian media is as government controlled and repressed as a lot of people think outside of Russia. How free media is in Russia and even in other countries is a thing I can't really answer. You need to really do like a research, I think, on it. I think it's a hard question on how free media is in Russia, and not only in Russia but generally in the entire world. Yes, I think they're different because I grew up in a different political system, different economical system, and in a system with different values. So they are differences in the way people act and what they learned. But I don't think that the differences are so large that they would be not understanding each other. So there are differences just because of the environment they grew up. I have met a lot of people who do not really think that NATO is a great thing. They don't like it at all, actually. And I see why. Because there are a lot of NATO troops next to the Russian border. There are also some people who think it's neutral. Some people say, well, that's actually good that there are like NATO troops next to Russia. So there are different opinions, but generally I have noticed people really do not like the fact that NATO exists and is close to Russia. I think people associate the Soviet Union with Russia so much because when they were talking about the Soviet Union, they were always saying Soviet or Russian, this and this and this. But nobody said Estonian or Kazakh things. Everything was either Russian or Soviet, and I think that kind of stuck to the people's mind. But also, I think it also has a historical background. The revolution happened in Russia, which was the Russian Empire back then. And the Russian Empire included territories in it like Estonia and other territories that are sovereign states now. In those states, like Estonia for example, they only really evolved as an independent state after the Soviet Union fell apart. So, and I think that's also one of the reasons that it's adding up that Russia is associated with the Soviet Union, because it happened in Russia, the revolution, it became the Soviet Union, and when it fell apart, well, some parts became sovereign states, but well, Russia is Russia, it became again a different country than it has been before, but I think it has to do with the thing that the revolution happened in Russia. Yes, the Cold War was officially won by the West, by the US, but I don't really think that there are any winners, because like, yes, the US came out from the Cold War as like considered as a stronger country, as a more developed country, as a richer country. Yes, and the Soviet Union fell apart. But I have, for example, read a theory that a lot of the US debt that they have now is still coming from the arms race from the Cold War. So, and generally I don't really think that there are really winners from the Cold War, because like both sides have invested a lot of money and time and resources into an arms race and just to boost their image and all kinds of things, and I don't think that either side really won a whole lot out of it. So that's it, and I hope the questions were understandable and I gave you an understandable answer.
Russia's greatest love machine. It was a shame how we carry on.